afternoon. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Scouching Live. We are back on our regular schedule. Finally, we are back on our regular schedule. First of all, thank you to everybody who tuned in to some of the live streams during the Olympic hockey season. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate really the Sunday morning show up at whatever it was, 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning, and hanging out and making the sting of an Olympics loss for my beloved country a little bit easier. So thank you very much. If you haven't noticed, we're doing a bunch of video rooms as well, so you can check it out on YouTube in our channel. We recently have done Roger McQueen and Carter Bear, and who else have we done recently? Bill Zon. Oh, actually, I should say Bill Zonon. I don't think we've put him out yet. But we got Zonon on the way, and Flames fans, I'm sure you can imagine who I'm talking about, but there is another Calgary Flames guy on the way, so you can stay tuned for that. But we are back. We're feeling good. I just finished stuffing my face with some homemade pasta salad. I've never made my own pasta salad. I took some notes. I know how to improve it for the next go-around. It's the easiest thing in the world, really, to make it at least decent if you're like someone who doesn't know how to cook. And it lasts for like a few days. So, really, really good stuff. And we're having good times here. Video rooms are on the way. We have a couple more to do probably over the next little while. I know AJ is working on a game tape with Tyne and Lawrence. We got Tyne and Lawrence coming on the show, and AJ's editing that. I think he said sometime next week it'll be out, so you can stay tuned for that. I'm really excited to see it because he's one of the more fascinating case studies in the draft class this year. But yes, we're back on the regular schedule. Again, if you're not familiar or you're listening to a podcast, we're live Monday nights at 8 p.m., Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So we're good. We're back on the horse. We had a good day doing some office hours 2 days ago. And tomorrow, we're also doing a big office hours in the Discord server, accessible to Scouching subscribers or YouTube members. I got to go through all the big hits, all the big boys right up at the top. So you can look forward to that. If you're part of the Discord server, you can look forward to that there. And so with that out of the way, we can get into the show. I want to say something. I posted it on Twitter earlier today. Sorry, X.com. I posted it on X.com this morning when I announced the show today. But it has officially happened. My average ranking that you can track as a subscriber on Scouching.ca that tracks all of the sort of reputable lists that I track, and it's a weight average. Now I have a weight average, so I kind of went back and looked at who correlates with generally what the NHL draft turns out to be, and so reweigh things based on that. So for example, my ranking would be weighed significantly less because mine does not correlate with the NHL draft whatsoever. So, but it has happened. It is official that Ivar Stenberg has now taken the number one spot from Gavin McKenna in my weight average. It has finally happened. It was trending that way for a while, and we're finally there. So things have officially gotten really, really interesting. But it takes a little bit here. It's interesting. What seems to be happening is there pretty much is a really within in terms of a confidence interval for my work, it's pretty much the top three is locked in right now as of today. If the draft were today, of Stenberg, McKenna, Verhoff. And from there, you've got a pretty decent chunk of guys, Schmitz, Reed, and Lawrence as the next three. And then it's pretty much all bets are off from there. You've got Carols, Malhotra, Bjork, Belchet, Savanto, Lynn, Rudolph. All kinds of guys all piled together after that point. So usually it doesn't work out exactly like this, but it also, we'll see what happens. But it is interesting now seeing the striations start to show up in different people's draft rankings. Our friend of the show, Tony Ferrari, just put out his most recent list on the Hockey News. You can go check that out. And also, I think we got to have him on the show because not only is he a great person to have on the show and a ton of fun, but also he and I are not lined up on quite a few players, I think. It just goes to show that me and him aren't just copying each other, because we trend in the same direction in some places, but in a lot of other places we are feeling a little bit different. But anyway, it's really good to be back on the regular schedule, back in the normal driver's seat, and we are going to have some fun. So, Chet, I'm using that adjective now, or noun, I guess. I'm referring to my chat as a person. That's what you do when you do what I do. Let's get into this. And yeah, fire away. Do your thing. And yeah, let's get into this. All right, finance guy here. What's going on, man? Rangers are sitting at 3. Please tell me you think Lawrence is worth the pick. I think that I think that it would be a very optimistic thing at 3. Personally, I see the logic behind it for Lawrence. For me, he's at 5 on my list. I could see how it could be worth it, but honestly, it's more along the lines of like a whole bunch of guys in that range are so incredibly close that if I was sitting next to someone who was like, I don't know if I want Lawrence at 3, like I really like Keaton Verhoff or Albert Schmitz or Chase Reed or Malte, even a Malte Gustafsson or something, I'd at least have time for that discussion because I think Lawrence is not a perfect player. I think there is a risk that Lawrence's offensive game maybe doesn't translate as well as you hope. And I do think he has some things to learn that can be very difficult to learn, honestly. And he plays a style of play that if he wants to generate offense, there's really little room for error, right? There's little room for mistake. And I feel like he's a player that is kind of in between roles, right? Like he's this scoring forward, but also this really good two-way player. But his two-way game is kind of limited by his passing ability and transition and all of that stuff. It's interesting. I don't think Lawrence would be the guy for the Rangers at 3. Personally, I don't even think it would be a good fit for the Rangers. And if they don't draft him, I don't think it would be like time to, jump off the proverbial stock exchange building, right? 1929, you don't need to go 1929 if the Rangers skip out on a Lawrence. I think there's a lot of other good options that you could make What'd you think of the Albert Smith's performance at the Olympics? Has he improved his draft stock? I thought he was really good, man. I went in trying to be pretty flat with him. I actually went in probably a little more negative on him than going in, or than you might think, because I watched a bit of him at the World Juniors and thought he played really well there. And the last game I watched of him, he was also pretty good, but in terms of like showcasing real game-changing ability, I haven't been in that headspace really. And the Olympics are kind of the ultimate test. And I tried to we'll be doing a game of Schmitz tomorrow, but I did try to watch as much of the Olympics as I could. And I think with him, he definitely did not look out of place on that team at all. I thought the Latvian team played that Latvian style of hockey really well, and Schmitz played into that really well. Just that sort of turtle, sort of metapod Harden, and just eating pressure, clogging the middle, and trying to sort of win by attrition, which is really tough to do. But I think that, you watch him and how he gets around the ice and how he uses his size, but also how he picks his spots defensively. Like, I think there's a level of maturity to his game and sort of projectability that is developing and growing. Like at the beginning of the year, he was all over the place. Like he was a bit of a wild man when it came to playing with the puck and his confidence and all of that stuff. And that is a big question mark. But by and large, I thought he was good, and I'm excited to see him tomorrow. Obviously, the news today, if you're not aware, someone asked about it in the chat, that he's going to Munich now for the rest of the year. He's actually moving to Germany and finishing the year in the Dell. So that'll be really interesting as well to see him there. I feel like he might be able to stretch himself a little bit more and push things a little bit more. And that's gonna be fun. I think it'll be really interesting to see him there. I think so. To answer Skylar's question, I'm assuming that's your real name. If it isn't, that's fine too. But I'll just call you Skylar. Thoughts on his move from Liga to Munich? I mean, so I can see why he would do it. Number one, he gets off of probably the worst team in Liga. Like, they are bottom of the table, a threat to be relegated, like they were a threat to be relegated last year. I think they are at the bottom of that league, and he has been asked to do a lot there, and there just hasn't really been that much reward around him for his work. And I think he sees this as like the season ends in early March, mid-March for Liga. I'm looking here. It's the 17th of March is the last day of the regular season. And from there, the only other games he's going to play probably is a relegation series. I believe they're in the relegation zone for Liga. So for him, he's going, well, my season's going to be over by the end of March, and he won't be around until the U18s. Eucharist is second last. They might avoid the relegation series, but they almost certainly are not going to be going into the playoffs. Or at least if they do, they're going to be an underdog. They are pretty low. And so with him, it's like Munich is a team that is in the playoffs. They, I think, are third in the table. I'm looking now. Munich is sitting at third in the table. They're going to be a playoff team in Germany. It'll extend his season a little longer. You know, between quality of competition or something, I don't think that's really the issue. I think I would expect based on Schmitz's experience in Liga to this point, I'd expect him to look pretty comfortable and be able to sort of flex his offensive muscles a little bit more with better surroundings and a group around him that I think can play into his benefits or play into his strengths a little bit better. So I'm curious. It's a very interesting decision to make at this point in the season. He is making a big bet on himself. I think it'll extend his season and again shorten the length between the end of the year or the end of his club year and the U18s, which are going to be the last time he'll be able to show himself off. I guess he could go to the World Championships as well. I imagine he'll be there as well. So he's going to have lots of opportunity still to play for NHL scouts, but it's going to give him more ice time. It's going to give him more reps. It's going to give him whatever playoff experience in a league that's not that bad. And so, yeah, I get it from his perspective. I'm assuming that's what his perspective is, like something more competitive and a longer season and all that stuff. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious about it, and yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how he does. Thank you. I appreciate that you're liking the Draft Room series. It is a lot of fun to watch, fun to do, and I think it's a really good exercise because I do believe that part of my blind spot as an evaluator, and I think it's part of the reason why I end up so radically different to other people. Number one, I mean, I do a lot of data work, which can frame things a little bit differently when you're not working relative to where you're not working with data. But in terms of that qualitative evaluation, like just sort of sitting back and watching a player, I do think that there are guys where, you know, watching a game of them in detail and walking through it, and honestly, like for video rooms, a lot of it is also talking myself through it, and sometimes that makes it into the edit, and trying to figure out what I'm looking at and everything. But I do think there's a big part of it that is sort of a reminder for me of like the way that things are executed, and sort of zooming out is an important thing to do as well. You know, like I'm so laser focused on a player at a given time that maybe I overvalue something because I'm focused on it with regards to the data, or I might ignore something because of the way that, you know, I might ignore just the vibe of the player because I'm looking for that sort of success in those micro events or something. I don't know how to explain it. But for example, like zooming out and watching like Roger McQueen for the most recent one, I think it's the most recent one we've put out. You know, like he was fine in that game. I didn't think he was like a life-changing, game-changing talent for Providence. But, you know, zooming out and seeing him play and the way he gets around the ice and everything like that, it's like, okay, I can kind of understand a lot more about the potential of the player. I get the upside swing. It didn't radically change my mind on where I had him on my list last year or what I think of him in general or whatever, but he's a really good example. And Bill Zanon is an example of the other one. Like even in the video towards the end, to not spoil it, I sort of just sort of at the end, I kind of sat back and went, you know, there's a couple of things going on in this game, a couple of factors that maybe I just didn't didn't quite put together as much as I probably should have based on last year. And, do I think I had him a little high on my list now after having seen him a bit this season? Maybe a little. But honestly, I still feel like he was a really, really good pickup, and I feel really, really positive about his trajectory. But, like there's a couple of guys where I've gone, like Cole Rushney, for example. Like I went back and watched him, and it's so weird because I remember last year watching Cole Rushney, for example, and going, boy, I love this guy so much. And I think I had him in the same tier as Zanal, but Zanal, like, has, I think, an easier projection to higher levels of hockey. But I watch Cole Rushney in the NCAA and I just go, yeah, but I look at him now and I go, but that tantalizing positive, that bull case, that top end upside with a Rushney and the way that he plays and just how smart he is so valuable. And that's not to say that like a Bill Zanal is not a very smart player. I think he can be quite good in that regard, but there are gaps. And I think zooming out and just watching a game happen and all that, it's really helpful to sort of, check myself. And so I'm trying to do that a little bit more before the draft happens. Sometimes we do that in office hours, but usually that's mostly just me doing my tracking work. But, from time to time, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a good practice. It's a good thing that I do, and I like doing it. So I'm glad you enjoy it. Unfortunately, no, it is not Cullen Potter. I mean, that's only because Potter hasn't played in a while, and at least I don't think he has. And I think he's out for the season, isn't he? And I don't like doing games from like a long time ago. Like I try to pull a game and record it in the that week, right? Like at the lowest in that week. Yeah, Potter hasn't played since January 10th, so I don't really like doing that. But, yeah. Something's weird with the color profile on my monitor here. It's really, my whites are all washed out. HDR, whoever invented HDR, I feel like it's never been implemented and operated well. Like, I feel like it's something nobody asked for, and it just isn't being implemented too well. For some reason, it looks way better on my upper monitor than my lower one. So I don't know what that's all about. Maybe I'll just have to mess around with the color settings. Windows 11, baby, here we go. It's a jam. It's a thing. Oakley dokley. Where are we here? I lost my spot. I'm sure it's been asked, but how much do you think McKenna's 8-point performance makes people overvalue him? Well, like, I don't know. It's really weird. Like I definitely think I partially bear a level of responsibility for the skepticism around him. Maybe I'm thinking with a head that's too large for my shoulders, but I was probably the only person coming into the season being like, I feel like there's more competition than just McKenna at the top end of the draft. Like he's not perfect, and my vibe on him always was, it's not that he's not a good player. It's not that he's not a player that you want on your team. That's not the case at all. It's just that there are other guys that also bring a lot to the game that when you put them all in the washing machine and they come out of the washing machine, they all kind of might come out looking similar. Maybe not looking similar, but similar-esque output. Right? Where you look back and you go, I could see the argument why this guy went ahead of this guy, but I also could see the argument why it should have been flipped around. I could see this, right? Depending on which way you slice it, what you value, which way you look at the numbers. And so I feel in a way that like for a subsection of hockey fans and everything, like things have like completely swung the opposite direction, right? Where it's like the expectation all of a sudden is that, he's awful or he's struggling or yada yada yada, so now he has 8 points and he's not struggling anymore, everything's fine. But in reality it's like, well, that's not the, like, him scoring is never ever been the issue, right? Like I think it's not about how much he scores, because and again, like the subject of one of the upcoming video rooms is a really great example, a more extreme example, I would say, of this, but it's a good example of like why point production is a fuzzy match to success. but it doesn't mean a player's not going to be successful, right? I don't think, and if I've ever come off this way, I apologize, but I have never tried to come off like I'm cheerleading for the demise of Gavin McKenna, ever, right? He's been in my first tier of talent literally since day one this season. It's just that tier has more than one player in it, you know? So for me personally, like, I look at 8 points and I go, well, that's an amazing accomplishment. Of course it is. But I also look at that and I go, but is it like, I remember early in the year, right? We were sitting around and I remember talking about this on the show. He was about to go into a month that might have been November or December where they were playing all just awful NCAA teams like Stonehill College and all these teams that, you know, with all due respect, are not on the same tier as a lot of other colleges in the US. So, and McKenna, like, my expectation there was like, I could see Gavin McKenna popping 7 or 8 points on Stonehill College. Like, of course I could see that. And when he didn't, I kind of went, okay, like, he wasn't bad, but interesting. And so it's almost like, you know, things have regressed, and sometimes things can regress very violently, right? Like, I think that the point production he has to this point, based on my data and what I've seen of him and how he plays, I look at that and I go, overall, I feel like that's a pretty good position to be in, and I could see how you are a top-level prospect and someone every team is probably going to want on their team. Sure, I get that. So I think that if you were, for some whatever reason, very much off the McKenna bus going into an 8-point game, and then an 8-point game against Ohio State, which are not a very great program this year, if that completely changes your mind and you're like, oh, actually, I think he's fixed now, then you're not getting the point in the original, like, you're not getting the point of the original things to poke on him at, or things with which people were poking him with. Like, you weren't devaluing him originally for the right reasons. You were just kind of going with the herd and then going, oh, I guess the herd was actually wrong because yada, yada, yada. And I don't know. I personally don't really care because, again, like, my opinion on McKenna, I mean, I think he's been a little bit better than what I remember last year, but it hasn't shifted. You know, like, he's I don't think he's going to end up any lower than 4 by the end of the year. You know, like, Viggo Bjork has been incredible. He was incredible at the U20s. He's a center in the SHL, and he's not looking out of place. I believe that he can stick in that position long term. And I think that there's a lot to his game that is really, really good. He just doesn't have the special level of vision and skill and creativity that a McKenna has. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, you know, your question basically was like, yeah, how much do people think people are gonna overvalue him? And it, you know, it's a matter of like, well, what does it mean by value? What are people valuing him as? Like, I think that the fundamentals of his game, there are things you gotta do to enable him to be successful, but if you do those things, it's not that hard. And if you do those things, you're going to be really greatly rewarded. It's just that as a player, in things that don't show up on a score sheet, there are going to be times where you're like, boy, I wish there was just a little bit of X in his game, a little bit more of X or Y or Z, you know? And I think that those things end up coming to the surface anyway, and popping 8 points on Ohio State is not the same thing at all as doing it in the NHL. Obviously 8 points in the NHL is incredible, and nobody really does that ever. But at the end of the day, like, it was a great night, man. It was a great night for Gavin McKenna. Like, you can't fault him for that. And it was an awful night for Ohio State. Just awful. But, you know, early in the year, I remember watching it 5-on-5 a lot. I almost exclusively watched 5-on-5 and going, you know, for all the issues that I think McKenna has, I think he should be scoring more at 5-on-5 than he is. And so for him to, even though 5 of, I think, those 8 points were power play points, still, like, seeing him regress to something more positive when it comes to even strength scoring and 5-on-5 doesn't surprise me so much. So at the end of the day, this is kind of maybe where I expected him to be-ish. It's just, you know, again, at the end of the day, once he gets to the NHL, that's the big thing. That's the big question mark. Does Stenberg have an 8-point game this year? He's a bum. You're right. I mean, that's also a factor too. Ivar Stenberg has not scored 8 points in a game. I think they should send him to Hockey Svan to play with Wiggo Sorensen so that he can have multiple 8-point games. He might even get a 80-point game at that level because yeah, it would be kind of fun. But that might do it. Might do it. Maybe. Who would you say has been trending upward lately? Are you asking for me or the public? Because if it's me, I will say, I mean, for me, oh my god, my monitor color is all, oh, it looks awful. I would say that Bjork is, statistically speaking, a really good riser for me. He's risen from 12 to like 12-ish to 4 or 4, which is a pretty huge jump. Malte Gustafsson has really, really grown on me over the year for sure. Wyatt Cullen, I'd say, has also grown on me a lot. As much as I doubt what other people are seeing in Caleb Malhotra, I do see value in his game, and I think every game I've watched this year, he's looked better offensively and more projectable offensively, which is good. We did a game of Elton Hermansen the other day, and I had to go back and watch more because I didn't quite believe it, but I think he's really improved over the course of this season. I think he's really, really upped his game and looks way more projectable now. But those are the guys that have probably risen the most for me, because the rest of them, they're kind of all over the place and not over the moon about a whole lot of them anyway. They're interesting and I'm excited, but they're not like game altering, guys that came out of nowhere for me, at least. But from the public's perspective, let's have a look. Let's see, who are the guys at the top who kind of came out of nowhere? I mean, Malhotra for sure is a big one. There's a lot of volatility around Bjork, but he went from mid-teens-ish to pretty much outside of, well, not everybody has him in the top 10, but top 10 for more people now. What else do we have? William Hokanson went from a guy nobody had ranked really to a top 20, top 25 guy. That's a pretty big jump too. I mean, Oliver Suvanto was a guy who he hasn't even played a game at the U20 level in Finland. He just jumped straight to Liga from U18. I haven't looked up the numbers, but I don't know how many times that's happened. Not very many. So that's already a pretty huge jump. But over the course of this season, I honestly, like, Malhotra's the big one, but things actually haven't shifted all that much. And I think there's still plenty of time for things to shift. I mean, I don't think anybody also expected this out of JP Hurlburt, but since he got off to such a ripping hot start, everybody kind of latched on immediately. And he's been kind of in the same slot ever since-ish. Yeah, something like that. How do I feel about international law? Oh my god, I hate it. Abolish it. Might makes right, that's what I say. Thoughts on bird law? Oh, well, we can go toe-to-toe on bird law as much as you want. I graduated summa cum laude from Hummingbird University. I know what I'm doing here. What happens to Kucherov's legacy with another 100 assist year this year? Well, I don't know. I think that's up to you. Because I still look, I mean, I look at Nikita Kucherov and I go, he is an incredible scorer. He's an incredible playmaker. He's an incredible, there's a lot that he does really, really well. Yeah, I mean, oh my god, he's on pace for 141 points this year. That's wild. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think his legacy is pretty solidified. Like, he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's got 2 Stanley Cups, 3 Art Ross trophies, a Hart Trophy, multiple international medals and performances that Russians physically can't get right now. Yeah, he's been all over the place. Like, I don't know what more you want out of him. I mean, do I think he's like one of the greatest of all time? I don't know, but I think he's right up there. Like he's right up there. Like in the NHL, where is he in career scoring? I'm gonna look. This really takes me back. I remember watching Nikita Kucherov when I was in university, when he was with the junior team and playing with Mikhail Grigorenko and going, that guy's really, really good. So is Grigorenko, but this guy's really good. And then he ends up a second round pick or whatever. Was it that year? Yeah, he was drafted as a draft year guy. So that was nice. Right. All-time career scorers. Where is Kucherov on this list? 73rd in the league. So Kucherov, I guess you go more for points per game here. And let's filter out games played. You got to play, I don't know, 1,000 games played. I don't know if Kucherov's played 1,000 games, actually. Has he? He has not. All right. We'll go 800. 800 games. Not 8,000, 800. I mean, yeah, he's 5th in NHL history of 800 games or more in points per game. He's up there with Crosby, Stastny, Esposito, Draisaitl, Lafleur, McKinnon. He's ahead of McKinnon. He trails only Peter Stastny, Marcel Dion, Mario Lemieux, and Wayne Gretzky. And, you know, he did so in an era where there's more scoring. By the way, 15th on that list is Artemi Panarin, so there's that too, which is also pretty wild. But anyway, you get the point. I think his legacy is pretty well solidified. When is our next Scouch macroeconomics stream? Bro, if you want to ask me about economics, you can try. I can't say I'll give you a good answer. My understanding of macroeconomics is rudimentary, I would say. I don't know. Depends. Which European leagues closely aligned to North America in terms of play style? Not necessarily talent, but in terms of the way the game is played? I mean, it might just be because this has come up recently, but like Germany comes to mind. Germany is a pretty intense physical league. And I haven't watched a lot of the Dell in recent years. I'm trying to remember. Like, I watched a bit of it last year, like Maxim Schaefer and Elias Schneider. This year I haven't seen much, but the German league comes to mind. I don't know. Something like that. What has post-World Junior Bjork done per your projections of him? How high is the hope of a top 6 center? So I've only seen a little bit of him since the World Junior, but I mean, he's playing center on a good SHL team, and they're still playing him there. Last I checked. I think that you also bet that he grows, which I don't think is a bad bet, but I think it's possible. And I think the right team is going to need to see it and trust him and also hope he grows. But, I mean, I think he has successfully... I think people have successfully shifted their thinking, or at least I have successfully shifted my thinking on him from definitely seeing him as a really good winger, maybe top 6, whatever. I could see that as a winger for sure. To I would try him at center. I'd see how it goes. I like how he plays that position, and I like his style of play in that role. And I would like to try it and fall back on the wing rather than just go into the wing and call it a day. So I don't know. I really love Bjork. I think there's a lot to like there. Malcolm Yastrin, a player. Yeah, honestly, he's a player that I want to track before the end of the year. I haven't yet, but I watched a bit of him back in January, I think, maybe December. And I thought there was something cool there. I don't know. I can't give you a detailed read on him, but I remember jotting him down and going, all right, I'm going to have to take a look at this guy at some point. And then I saw Central Scouting had him ranked and other people are taking a look at him. So now I kind of have to go and take a look and see what's there. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't have my notebook with me here, but at the time I don't really remember exactly why I didn't throw him on the list. I think it might have had something to do with like his skating ability and his size and all that stuff. But, nonetheless, I'll take a look. We'll check them out. You can ask me again in a couple weeks, and we'll see. Could you imagine Smits playing for Latvia at the World Juniors, Olympics, World Championships, and U18s? Well, he played at the U18s last year. He can't go back this year. But I mean, it's pretty amazing though to have a guy do all that stuff. I think the last one would have been Slavkovsky. I think, like, he went to the World Championships, he went to the World Juniors, he went to the Olympics, all in the same year. I think, didn't he? Which is a pretty incredible accomplishment, you know? Yeah, he went to the. Okay, so he didn't go to the World Juniors. He went to the Olympics and the World Championship, but the World Juniors was the year before. Wow. That's wild. Anyway. Good for Alberts, though. Good for Alberts. The HDR standard is a joke. I know, man. I honestly, if I wasn't worried about the fact that it might break my stream, I might just switch at least this lower monitor, back to SDR, because it's really distracting and really gross looking, and I didn't notice until I was on the internet live, and it's kind of pissing me off. Locked in. Oh my god. Okay, so we're locked in the PEC. Those who know. NHL general managers forcing you to choose between Rudolph Malhotra or Shilov at 5. I go Malhotra. That's unbelievably easy question. Easy. Charles, I know you. I love you. I get you. But you're down on Malhotra a lot. And I mean, I think that we'll take a look at him tomorrow. I hope you're there. Because Malhotra, I think Malhotra is being very miscast by people who are rating him very, very highly. But he does do a lot of really important stuff that works in the NHL really, really well. And that's worth it. That's valuable. And I think I look at this draft, and I think my ranking looks so much different to a lot of other people's, because it opens up very, very, very quickly, and it opens up very, very wide. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of confidence outside of my top, let me look here. Like, outside of my top 10, I don't have a lot of confidence that the rest of my first round is, like, locked in, or any level of confidence that, like, they're all going to be high-end NHL players, but I do think they're all very interesting players for various reasons. And yeah, I mean, like, I think by virtue of how quickly the draft opens up, and how many players are in that sort of next cohort together, no matter which way you slice it. To some people, they might see that as weakness of the class. I think there is a possibility that in retrospect, we do look back on this class and see it as a bit weaker. But I really like a lot of players in this class. And Malhotra has a level of, like, in that environment, I think Malhotra has a level of baseline certainty that I think teams are latching on to in a position that is really important at center. Daxon Rudolph, I think I have not had the same experience watching Rudolph as Malhotra. And Shilov, I have not had that same experience either. I think Shilov especially plays a extraordinarily risky and hard to project game that is very questionable. And Rudolph, I think, plays a very strange style that is, I think, at the end of the day, I might just be wrong, but I just don't get it. It's like, again, for the finance guys in the chat, for the finance people in the chat, it's like, you don't usually invest your money, if you're picking companies, you don't usually invest your money where you don't understand the business, right? Like, you don't, if you look at something and you're like, how do I even know what I'm looking at? You probably shouldn't put your money in those companies just for whatever reason. And that's okay. Like, you have your wheelhouse. And if other people make a lot of money, it stings, obviously, because you're like, well, damn, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, and what did I miss? But that's still at the time, you're like, it's not my jam. It's just not my wheelhouse. And I've learned over the years that, like, I have a thing that I look for. I think teams also have things they look for, and those things teams look for can vary. And I have my own opinions, and If I'm wrong, then you correct and try to learn. And if you're incorrect, or if you're correct, you reinforce it. If you're incorrect, you try to learn and think about it and look at it from a different direction or something and try to understand based on your experience. But yeah, no, easy answer to me is Malhotra for sure. You thought you had me there, but that was an easy one. When McKenna scored against bad teams at the World Juniors, it was downplayed. Meanwhile, Stenberg didn't score against those same bad teams, yet those games don't drag him down. Right, but like that's the point, right? Like I don't think people downplayed McKenna because he scored. Like I think that the World Juniors was an experience for people to actually laser focus on McKenna. And when you laser focus on him, you see some of the issues. And I think everybody was primed to be down on McKenna. With Stenberg, I mean, the fact that they won the tournament is a big plus. And Stenberg also like started that tournament. He was slow. Like he started that tournament slow, but by the end of it, he was outstanding. And in McKenna's case, I thought he was really good throughout that entire tournament. Like there's, I think people went into that tournament going, man, like, is there really a discussion that he might not be the number one guy? And I think people saw evidence of what people are seeing on both sides, Stenberg and McKenna, where they came out and went, yeah, maybe there is something going on here. Because, again, it's like it doesn't, in a short tournament like that, it doesn't really matter how much you score, in my opinion, because goals are noisy and weird. And you got to look at the details. And again, it's like, I don't think you're looking at the situation as I can absolutely identify which one I'd rather have. I think it's a really tough call. It's a really, really tough call. And I don't think you can go wrong with either player. I understand the benefits of both players, but I don't know. It's tough. I think Stenberg, what really matters is, and it sounds like hockey, man, but I watched him in those final games, in those playoff games, and he blew me away. He was amazing on both sides of the puck, just really, really strong, really, really good. And so was McKenna. Like McKenna was really good too, right? You can't fault McKenna for how he played either, but I think people came out of that going, okay, yeah, I think there is a discussion here. I think there is a discussion. And so if you interpret that however you interpret that, then so be it. I agree. Joe Malone is the GOAT. That's true. Joe Malone is the greatest player of all time, yeah. Can you talk about Svensk? Yes, I can. I'm not gonna, though. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, Verdi Svensk, I'm just really high on him. Mostly because not because I think he's incredible, but I think he is just a part of that group of defensemen in the first round for me, where I go, I don't like the fundamentals of his game. I would much rather, like, I don't see him as that far behind his cohort. Like watching him play internationally, he's been with the Finnish U20 team a couple of times this year and has played well there. He in the junior league, like you can't play him there in my opinion. Like I just don't think he learns the right lessons playing down there, and I don't know why they're not loaning him to a Mestis team like they did with Piparinen. I don't understand that logic because if they're playing him in Liga, recently they've been playing him on the wing for like 4 minutes a game, which makes absolutely no sense, and it's really weird. But, I think people look at Svensk, who is a more slender build defenseman, and write him off. But I look at his tools, I look at the skill, and I just go, man, like you give this guy enough of a runway, you leave him in Europe for a few years, and go from there. And see what happens. Like, would I actually pull the trigger on a Verdi Svensk in the first round if I were an NHL team? Probably not, but that's only because I don't have to. I know I don't have to. Like I'd rather trade down or try to get someone else instead, right? So yeah, I don't know. It's he's an interesting player. Like in terms of just the mobility, his skating ability in general, he is an extremely explosive skater and a very, very skilled defenseman as well. And like I think he's a guy where there are definitely big holes that I think could withhold him from an NHL gig with regards to his defensive play, his defensive strength and structure. It's not amazing. I think it's not as bad as it might seem, but it's not amazing. And he can get turned around at some really inopportune times, and that's not great. But in terms of like his skating and skill combination and how much he can get around the ice and all that stuff, and the evidence of him playing with like the international program, I really, really like him, and he could play on my team any day. And I think his resume is really strong. Unfortunately, he didn't crack the World Junior team, even though he's been on the U20 team here and there, and he won't be at the U18s, so he won't be exposed very much to anybody. But you know, I at this point, I just kind of was thinking that if you're gonna put him on the wing instead of playing him at defense in Liga, you may as well loan him out, and they haven't yet. So who knows? How upset should we be about the USA men's team? I mean, I think that's to each their own. I was at my parents' place last night, and my parents aren't hockey fans, but they asked me about this, and like we were talking about it for a while, and my parents by no means are cut from that cloth in terms of politically speaking, I don't think, but they're also not lined up with me either. I think it's a healthy balance between me and my parents and whatever, and we just had a discussion about it. And you know, I think for me personally, and I can't tell you how to feel, I don't know, but the thing with the phone call, it's really embarrassing, and it's really, you know, it's very indicative of a side of our culture that is kind of really dark, where, you know, do I believe now that the guys in that room hate women and hate women's hockey? Like, I don't believe that. Do I believe that they were extraordinarily adrenaline through the roof and just rolling with it and got carried away, and maybe I am going to extend them the courtesy that maybe they were really uncomfortable, but in that moment, like, you just kind of laugh and go along with it and whatever, and that's not excusing it, I'm just explaining it. But you lose me at that, beyond that point, right? Like, and the fact that Kash Patel was there and invited by Bill Guerin, who is the GM of the Minnesota Wild, that's inexcusable to me. Like, that is insulting, not only to people who appreciate, like, just good governance and being represented by people who have your best interests at heart, which Kash Patel absolutely fundamentally does not, and that's very obvious to anybody who keeps up with anything going on. But it's doubly so because you're the general manager of the Minnesota Wild. Like, it is incredibly tone deaf. It is incredibly just stupid. Like, it's a stupid thing to do. And it's inexcusable to me. And beyond that point, you know, you got to give, I personally, it is clearly, like, personally, the players who said no to going to the White House deserve credit for standing on principle and doing something that they believed in. And I could see, I'm not an American, but being invited to the White House is probably an enormous honor, and saying no to that is probably really tough, because who knows if you're going to win another gold medal? Who knows if you're going to win a Stanley Cup and have that opportunity, whether or not the president is the president, right? Like, whoever it is, right? So I think that they deserve a lot of, like, credit for standing up for something that I think a lot of people wrongfully might judge them for. And the people who did attend, I mean, it's your personal choice to do so, but you can't hide from it. And the thing that really bothers me is that they're trying to hide from it. like Vincent Trocheck this morning saying, I don't know why everybody's making this so political. And it's like, do you think we're stupid? Like, do you think we're just as dumb as you guys? Because it is literally a political thing. There's no getting around it. Like, you are the ones that have made it political, right? Like, you were partying with an FBI director who is an extremely political person. And just considering all of the facts and all of the things that are out there about the person who is occupying the White House, I can't even begin to imagine a frame of mind where I would put myself in a position to be photographed by him, be used by him for political purposes, anything like that. I just vociferously disagree with everything about that person personally. And that's not true for every American politician, right? If it were Mitt Romney, I'd be like, sick. I'm meeting the president of the United States. Like, Mitt Romney, like, let's go, man. Like, I don't care, you know? But there has been a dividing line. There's a dividing line, I think. And I am pretty certain, and I don't think I'm alone, but I am pretty certain that when you're an old person and this era is long gone, hopefully we all survive. When you're an old person, you're going to look at that experience and look at who you were hanging out with and all of the things you associated yourself with and feel shame. Like, if they don't already, which I don't think they do, otherwise they wouldn't have gone because it was literally 24 hours ago. But if that's what you're cool with, if that's what you're comfortable with exposing yourself to, then I can't stop you, you know? And if you believe that it's their right to go and they were kind of obligated to go because of the office itself, fair enough. I guess that's a fair point of view, but it doesn't change my mind at all. So, and it's the really, really sad thing is that this is kind of the effect that person who is president has on basically everything he touches. It just rots. It rots the it rots the event. It makes it tacky and cringe and awkward and it's just really weird to me. And so it's unfortunate because it was an incredible accomplishment. That was a game that, in my opinion, the US, they barely scraped it out. They won the game. You can't take that away from them at all. But Connor Hellebuck should get the Medal of Honor or whatever it is, the Medal of Freedom, whatever they call it. He should get it. Like, because he was incredible and Canada played extremely well and they just didn't win. I'm over it. But it did, for me, even as a fan of the team that lost, I was so pumped for those US guys. Like the Johnny Gaudreau aspect, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Like all of it, the way that game went down, the Jack Hughes, this elite young player, a product of USA Hockey's modern advancements, scoring the overtime winner that seals it. Like, what an incredible story. And within 2 hours, it's turned into a political quagmire because they opened themselves up to it and then willfully like leaned into all of it. And you're just like, I don't know. Like, I guess you just go, okay, I guess that's what you've chosen to do. And in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, we'll look back on it and there will be a legacy and there will be a public sentiment and we'll see how it turns out. But I get the feeling that there were a lot of Charles Lindberghs in that room. And unfortunately, that's just the way she goes. You know, don't idolize people. Don't expect your favorite athletes to be role models. They're probably not good role models anyway. I don't know. Like, for me, in terms of like as how upset I am, I wouldn't say it like offended me, but it really has disappointed me. You know, I might expect too much of professional athletes at this, like in this era, in this stage with the way things are today. Maybe that's fair, but it's still very disappointing that, especially now today, they're still not seeing the actual problem. Like, they're obfuscating what everybody's issue is and using just the fact that they're American as like a shield to be like, well, you can't criticize me because I'm just an American and I'm doing what any American would do. You know, if you're invited to the White House, you go. And in my books, I'm like, why? Like, it, you know, and then you say you don't want to make it political. I don't think you get to do that. But continuously leaning into it and constantly just like pushing back and making everybody feel like you think they're stupid is really disappointing. And if that's what you're cool with, then that's what you're cool with. But we'll see how it turns out down the road. Personally, I would much rather be on that women's team and hanging out with Flava Flav all day, because that seems like a lot more fun. Seems like a lot more fun to me. So maybe after all, the women's team got the better deal. They got the better cards. Any intel on what's holding up the Tyler Myers trade? I do not have any, but be patient. It'll happen. It seems like it's going to happen. Maybe it's happened already. I don't know. It was a running joke that McKenna plays well against bad teams and Stenberg plays well against good teams, and the opposite being true. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think Stenberg, as the tournament went on, found his legs, got better and better and better and better and better, and just was great by the end of it. And for Gavin McKenna, he was really good, wire to wire, but he was also Gavin McKenna. And I think the issues in his game were there, but the strengths in his game were absolutely there too. Like, I thought there was a lot going on there. So I don't know. What the way that other people discuss these things and talk about it, you can't control it, and there's nothing you can do about it, unless you want to participate, which I generally don't. But you know, I don't know. I don't know. I'm in a different boat to a lot of those people, I think, just because I've been watching these guys for years. Can you explain why people are so fascinated with Daxon Rudolph and Ryan Lynn? I look at those guys and something seems off, but I can't put my finger on it. Well, I mean, they're very visible, right? Daxon Rudolph was a first overall WHL draft pick. He's very productive for a defenseman. He's on a pretty good team in Prince Albert. Ryan Lynn, also very productive and a high WHL draft pick. In terms of their style of play, honestly, I can't tell you with Rudolph. I don't know. Like with Rudolph, I think the best moments I've seen of him are the puck comes around the boards, he's at the point, and he'll just go blah and fire it across the crease to someone backdoor, and they'll tap it in for a goal. And I'm going, how the hell did you see that guy? How the hell did you know that he was there? How dare you, right? Like, how could you do that? Like, that's an incredible pass and an incredible sort of, like, he does that really, really often. Those misdirecting moments, those passes across the slot, and I just go, great, wow. But outside of that area, you know, he's almost like a... No, that's not true. I shouldn't say that. But I don't know. I don't get it with him. With Ryan Lynn, I see it a lot more. I see with Ryan Lynn, like, Lynn has some critical flaws, I think. I don't think that there is a I don't think that there's a good I don't think there's a bad chance that he slips further than people think and ends up a late first, maybe even an early second round pick. Not just because he got injured, but I think because I think teams are going to rightfully identify some critical flaws in his game for the style of play that he has. You know, a lot of people say, oh, what if he's Adam Fox? What if he's Adam Fox? And I just go, well, that's the one guy with his kind of profile that has kind of worked out. And Adam Fox is not, I would say, the level of skater that Ryan Lynn is or was at the same age. And with Ryan Lynn, it's like, he's unbelievably smart. Like, you're betting on, it's like the ultimate Kyle Dubas pick, right? He's not a very big defenseman, but he is remarkably smart with where he puts himself on the ice. Like, he allows himself and puts himself in a position to not have to show and lean into the things he needs to work on. Like, he's really good at putting himself in good spots on the ice and all of that stuff. I just look at him and I go, yeah, but I don't know, as an NHL defenseman, like, it's going to be tricky. I think it's going to be really tricky to get there. Not impossible at all. He's in my first round, but based on his play style, I go, yep, he's really, really smart, and the fundamentals need to really improve, I think. But if they do, you're going to end up with a really dynamic offensive defenseman who is also really smart and capable in his own end. Like, I think he could be one of those really just structurally sound, mid to undersized defensemen that come around once in a while. And he might not be Lane Hudson, but it might be just a good second pair guy that can run your second power play or even your first power play maybe, and make some really good plays and chip in defensively pretty well. And that would be awesome. You know, I see it a lot more in him for me than I do with Rudolph, personally. I think the narrative was 100% that Stenberg was mediocre in the group stage, but yeah, I agree. Oh, right. Slavkovsky didn't go to the World Juniors because it was postponed or canceled or whatever. That's true. Oh, God. McDavid is a captain. No OHL championships, no Memorial Cups, no Stanley Cups, no Olympic gold medals. Why does McDavid not win as a captain? Because there is a God, and he did, and McDavid must have done something in his youth that the gods are pulverizing him with. I don't know. It's just unfortunate. I don't know. I guess he sucks. I don't know. Maybe the Oilers should trade him. I don't know. 2018 Worlds, Canada was 4th as McDavid as captain. Yeah, exactly. Trade him. He doesn't. He may as well play on your fourth line, I suppose. Why was he on Canada in the first place? I don't know. I don't get it. All the bad teams in the World Juniors still play good defense, and the biggest difference in the last 10 years. I would agree. I think a lot of it is teams like. I mean, again, I'm not a good hockey player, but I have played a lot, and I've played on some good teams, a lot more bad teams. Maybe that's a, self-reflection moment. But if you know you're going into a game where you're the underdog, it almost is an advantage if you play your game right. Like, if you tactically plan correctly and everybody buys into that game plan, like, you can make it more interesting than it should be, I think. If you, like, in my experience, if you're, say, Latvia and you're playing Canada and you think we're gonna push Canada onto their heels and we're gonna score on them and we're gonna play good hockey and we're gonna win, I think you're kidding yourself. But if you have a game plan of, we got to clog the middle of the ice, we can't expect to have the puck too much, so we have to make sure that we are making it as hard as physically possible for Canada to get good chances. And if we do get the puck, we got to move it quickly. We got to not be afraid to get to the red line and get the puck in Canada's end and try to pin them there, because that's the only area where Canada is not remarkably strong, right? Like, if I'm a coach of Latvia, that's the game plan. And I think that's what they tried to do. And they do it successfully. The Czechs did that too. The Czechs are a better team than the Latvians, but they did that to a T. And so it's like, I don't know if it's so much like that their defense is good, because you don't look at Latvia's defense group and go, wow, all those guys should get drafted for sure. Like, they're North American Hockey League middle pair guys, right? Like, they're just guys. But it's the way they prepare, the way they sit back, and the way they play, and the way they game plan. And if everybody buys in, you know what's going on, you know the situation going in, you can make things more interesting than in a game like hockey. You can make things more interesting, just by virtue of the way the sport works. That's just the way it goes. I think it's cool. Yeah, that's true. Unless the noisy goals make me look smart, yeah, they're noisy. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. But if you do score a goal and I like you, then straight to the top of the list you go. Dax and Rudolph or Elise Ryabikian. Stop. Get out of here, Mark. I know you. Stop it. Malcolm has played with Milan Sundstrom recently. Yes, really, really fun pair of guys to watch. Survivor thoughts. I honestly, no spoilers. I forgot to mention this off the top. I had it in my notes to mention it, but we didn't get to see it last night because I was out for dinner with my parents, or sorry, at my parents' place for dinner. My dad just got home from Sicily, and he really wanted to show us how the Sicilians cook, so he made Sicilian food for us, and it was really good. But yeah, we didn't watch it. We're watching it tomorrow night because I'm home alone tonight. But don't worry, I'm home alone tonight, but don't come bother me because I am armed. I'm joking, but please leave me alone. But tomorrow night, when the better half is here, we're going to watch it tomorrow night, if not Saturday. So if Hillary Knight thought it was distasteful, then I go with her opinion on it. Fair enough. I mean, sure. I don't, yeah. But also, I mean, I think it's also, yeah, I mean, I think it's also like my issue with it goes beyond just the joke, you know. I especially, like, again, like, obviously I'm not endorsing jokes like that. I think they're very, very stupid and lowbrow and you know, the old ball and chain bullshit, right? Like, I don't enjoy that kind of stuff. And I think it's really demeaning and insulting. But unfortunately, you were on the phone with a person who has built an entire life span around that type of thing. And, you know, being in that situation, I don't care nearly as much about that instance than everything that came after it, when you have had time to process and think and reflect, and, you know. So it's your choice. It's their choice. How many players in the 26 and 27 draft classes do you see on Olympic rosters in 2030? Whoa. Okay. Well, I can't really speak to 2027. I don't know. I mean, also it depends if Russians are going to be in the Olympics in 2030, which who knows. But if Russians could be in the Olympics, there might be a couple. But if not, from this draft class, I mean, you're gonna have Schmitz for sure. I would think McKenna could be a candidate for Canada. Maybe Stenberg for Sweden. Probably. Like, I could see Stenberg replacing a Pontus Holmberg, you know, on that lineup. So probably him too. Man, I've loved Malte Gustafsson a lot lately. Like, if his game keeps developing the way it has, like, he could be a hell of a defenseman. But who was even on their defense group? Because also you have to think about the guys that won't be there in the next go-around. Like, who's not going to be there in 4 years, right? Likely. Because, yeah, so you've got a bunch of guys older than 30. Like, Markstrom will not be there. Carlson will not be there. Marcus Johansson, and Victor Hedman, all of those guys will be pushing 40. Oliver Ekman-Larsson will be 38. Landeskog, I can't imagine. Like, there's going to be open jobs. And looking at the NHL, I mean, you've got, you know, Wallstead and Lucas Raymond and all that stuff on Sweden. I feel like a few of the Finns will be there, you know, like Suvanto, maybe I could see being there. But otherwise, I don't know. Because, like, you're also expecting these guys to be 21, 22 in the Olympics. And how many guys in the Olympics were younger than that? Like, Sweden's youngest player was Jesper Wallstedt, and he was drafted in 2020. So, using those rules in your question, 0 guys from Sweden will be on the team. Probabilistically speaking, at least. But Schmitz will be there for Latvia. I think that's pretty clear. You might get a couple of the Slovaks, Nemec, Hrenko, maybe. But like Americans, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I can't point to any. Canadians, like maybe Chase Reed, but the US is really good and young. Like the US has a really good group of guys. I'm trying to think of anyone else, like Danish guys or, and I don't know. I don't think so. Bek Sultan Makish might be on the Kazakh team. That might be possible. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, though. I'll be very curious to see. But generally, guys that are 18, 19, 20, they don't make it. Like, how many of those guys were even there this year? Like, there were only 2 teenagers, and one of them was Macklin Celebrini. Yeah, under 22. Let's see. Yeah, there were 13 of them, and 2 of them were France's goaltenders. So it's pretty rare. And one of them was Damien Clara, who was there by default because Italy was there. So, yeah, like 3 of them were Italians. You'll have Schmitz there for sure. I don't think there are any Latvians that I think will be there later down the road. Yeah. Might not be very many, honestly. The fact that they were served McDonald's on silver trays was one of the clearest representation of all the professionalism that's gone from this. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna cast stones in glass houses because I had a sausage and egg McMuffin and a large coffee this morning from McDonald's. I'm not gonna lie to you. I enjoy myself a McDonald's breakfast once in a while, but I'm also not the president of the United States, and I don't know. But I mean, in an odd way, there's something very American about that, you know. I was talking to my parents last night a little bit, and we all the thing that I said that my mom laughed really hard at, and maybe it's not that funny, but my mom laughed, where we talked actually about this, that they were eating McDonald's and all that stuff, and I was like, America's very good at making a pig with lipstick on, but instead of going, wait a minute, why are we putting lipstick on a pig? That makes no sense. They go, what brand is the lipstick? You know, like it just is the way it goes. You know, that's just the way she goes. But as a Canadian too, it was really funny. Like just a seriously hilarious image that these guys, where their lives and their diets are planned down to the minute, probably go to the White House, this honor that they talk about, this like huge honor. And it's like, welcome guys, here for your great accomplishment. We're rewarding you with a McMuffin. Or a double quarter pounder, or I don't know, whatever you call it, like a double. I guess a double quarter pounder would be a half pounder. Here's a Big Mac. You know, thanks for all your work. You made this country proud. Have a Big Mac. Like, to me, that's just hilarious and very American. It should have only been about Johnny. Instead, it's all political. Exactly. Like, I mean, the Johnny Gaudreau thing was incredible. I honestly. I shamefully have to admit that I didn't even clock that was going to be part of the celebration. Like, I just, I didn't even clock it. And so when I saw them bring out the jersey and the parents were there, the whole family was there, it was incredible. It was great. And so to see it turn out this way is really unfortunate. Sports are nationalistic BS, especially the Olympics. It's funny when people are shocked by it. Yeah, I know. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I also hope the NHL players enjoyed the State of the Union, because I managed to avoid it, but I saw enough where I went, wow, I don't know if I don't know if I'm on board with all this. I don't know about that. Controversial. Myers is going to Toronto for William Nylander, Matthew Knies, Nick Robertson, and Matthews. Wow, man, Vancouver blew it. It's unfortunate. It'd be refreshing if people had political opinions. They feel comfortable sharing them. I'm sure Teemu Selanne jerseys would not have been bought in Finland if he was more open. I mean, that's true. I don't like talking politics, especially on the internet. It's something I think you have to do if you're really interested in it. It's something you kind of have to do in person and talk to a person. Like, because you really get a good feeling for what the people actually understand about the topics with which they have feelings about. And it's not about arguing at them and trying to win, but if you can have an actual discussion with these people, then with people you might disagree with or agree with. But if you can actually sit with them and interact with them and have productive conversations, then that's great. But the internet is not built for that, right? Like, and that's where most political discussion happens. It's not built for that. Like, I'm not going to argue politics with my chat, right? If you disagree with me, that's fine. Like, I don't care, but I'm not going to argue with you through text because I don't know you. I don't know how you're coming to your opinions. You're using text, and text can be interpreted a number of different ways, and I know that. I've definitely interpreted things wrongly from that text for sure. I don't like talking about it all that much, right? But I think at the end of the day, there are situations where you can't avoid it, right? Like, there are existential situations where you can't avoid it, unfortunately. I don't know. It's a tricky thing, but it's something I try to avoid, obviously, on this channel and everything, obviously. But when it crosses over into hockey, it's hard to ignore. But I think that with regards to political views, it's kind of up to you as an individual. I don't agree that we can all come to an agreement on like what the standard should be for a public figure in terms of like what they believe in, right? Like, I think that what a person believes, as, you know, like, all these guys are just employees. They're just private citizens, right? So they shouldn't have to think a certain way or act a certain way or do things that they're not comfortable with. But I do think that you as an individual can come to your own conclusions about what your opinion is on that player or that person and handle it how you handle it. I mean, obviously there are limits to that, but, you know, at the end of the day, I have my opinions on how that whole thing went down. Other people have theirs, and there's a lot of yelling and screaming, and it's not going to do anything. But that's just the times we live in, you know? It's all good. Well, it's not all good, but it's a thing. Top 5 playmakers outside of McKenna. Oh boy. Top 5 playmakers outside of Gavin McKenna. At times Keaton Verhoff. Oh, it's a good question. Jack Hextall comes to mind. Wyatt Cullen comes to mind. Viggo Bjork. Ivar Stenberg. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Those guys just have that, like, next level processing ability, which I love. Daxon Rudolph is sounding awfully Zane Parecki. I don't think so. I liked Parekh a lot more than Daxon Rudolph. Like, Parekh is a much more active and engaged player, especially with the puck on his stick. He is, I think, a much better skater than Rudolph. I think he is a much more dynamic offensive zone presence than Daxon Rudolph is. But I do think Rudolph, by nature of how he plays, is a little bit more of a stable defensive presence than Parekh ever was. So I think there's a little bit more balance in Rudolph than there is in Parekh, but I don't believe in Rudolph nearly as much as I did with Parekh. Like, Parekh, the thing that always I came back to, and I'll give credit to Joel Henderson because I think he threw this out there first, but the career trajectory of a John Klingberg for a guy like Zane Parekh, you know? Is John Klingberg, has he had good years and has he been a really good defenseman in the NHL before? Absolutely. But you live and you die with what John Klingberg brings to the game, and that's okay. You know, same thing with a McKenna. There's going to be times where you love him and there's going to be times where you don't. But at least there's times when you love him. And with Rudolph, it's like, there are times where I'm interested and I'm curious, but the whole package as a whole, I just don't get it, really. Not nearly as much as other people do. And I don't know why that is, but for some reason, I just don't get it. The Finland-Canada game really opened my eyes on what top hockey could look like. 40 minutes, Canada just had pure offense, and it required insane defensive effort just to stay in the game. Yeah, I mean, I think with Finland, that's part of the issue right now, is that scoring talent true high-end scoring talent is kind of not as there as it is elsewhere. And I don't know your Finnish. You know better than me. I don't know how the system works over there, what's wrong, what's going right, whatever. But, I mean, I do think Finland does have a wheelhouse of style of play that they really know how to do it. They really know how to develop those types of players. We're looking at Suvanto and some of their defensemen and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think with Canada, if I'm interpreting you correctly, like the way Canada played is a really good example of like that Canadian team is, especially that top unit, is a really great example of like how I would want to build a team. Obviously, it's easy to say when you're like, well, you would play McKinnon with McDavid and then put Macklin Salabrini with them and you have good players. Wow, shocker. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I just mean you would conventionally think that a line like that wouldn't work. Like in the NHL, it's like you have a speed skill guy, and a much speedier skill guy than I thought going into the season this year in Salabrini. But it worked, at least until it didn't. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's interesting. I mean, I don't think you can be too critical about. The Finns finished third. They got a medal. And I thought they played okay. Juuse Saros certainly is still a good player. But, yeah, I mean, I think you can sort of take away, you see what Canada plays like. You see what the U.S. plays like. You see how lopsided the semifinals were, right? Like, it's they were kind of on an island a little bit. And the crazy thing to me, too, is that one thing goes the other way and the Swedes get through. Wait, no. Yeah, anyway, the point is, anyway, I don't even know what the point is. I don't even know. Who are the best skaters in the draft? I mean, what is best? The best skaters in the draft. I mean, I'm biased, but I might throw Verdi Svensk out there. He's a pretty incredible skater. I honestly like a lot of the defensemen are kind of coming to mind for me. Maybe Adam Novotny could be part of that group. Some of the defensemen I think are really, really good skaters for what defensemen should be. Schmitz, Verhoff even at times, Gustafsson, Hulkinson, Piparinen. They're all good, really good skaters. But they're not like the dynamic, incredible force like Ty Lawrence probably is among those guys. But I don't know if I would put Stenberg, McKenna, Preston, Bjork. McKenna's not too far back, I would say, but definitely there's something there in what I just said that lines up. But I've been surprised with how much Novotny at least gets up and down the ice and all that stuff. Malte Gustafsson is making the team at 22. Yeah, hopefully it would be fun. What goes into making a good defense core? What's your ideal D core look like, and do any teams have it? I mean, yeah, so I think that's a matter of like interpretation and strategy. And, a lot of people say, well, if you're going to have a Lane Hudson, you need a Caden Gooley to play with him. Or if you have a Quinn Hughes, you need the Blais to play with him. And I don't really look at the game that way. I look at the game as every individual bringing strengths and weaknesses, and it's not about specifically nailing down their style of play. And like an NHL lineup in the video games, you go, well, this will synergize with this style of player, yada, yada, yada. Like when I went to, when I think about it, I want both of my defensemen to be mobile and more conservative, I would say. Like lean a little more conservative in terms of their positioning and defensive play, but be really aggressive at blue lines. Like that's kind of the thing is I don't need them pushing into the offensive zone and getting below the goal line and doing all that stuff. I mean, if they see a route or see a lane to do so, go nuts, but I don't want that to be a focus. But I do want guys that can really get around the ice and play with the puck. Like I want guys that aren't afraid to use each other to open the ice up and go east-west instead of north-south and try to use open space. Like in the video room series, we've highlighted it a bunch of times. Like the ways that guys get around the ice can open up room for other players on the ice to have freedom. Like it drives me nuts when I see breakouts where a defenseman just carries it to the red line and blasts it in the offensive zone when, say, the right winger is carving across the neutral zone through the center ice dot and dragging defensive pressure towards the defenseman carrying the puck. And in doing so, the defensive partner is in the neutral zone completely by himself, and there might be one guy ahead of him blocking him from a controlled zone entry. Like, seeing those situations really makes me feel crazy, and I would rather have defensemen who, have a more bird's eye view type approach. And I don't know every NHL team and how they play and all that stuff, and like what you might know better than me, honestly. I don't really care how big you are with regards to defensemen. I care if you lose battles, and I care if you leak bad chances against. But I've seen plenty of big defensemen leak chances against constantly, and they get played constantly. So that's just the way she goes. But for me, I just look for guys that are mobile, deferential with their passing, possession-oriented, generally relatively conservative with their positioning, but also have a level of skill to play with the puck and drive play themselves. In the NHL, that's been the biggest thing statistically that's changed over the last 15, 20 years, is more defensive involvement offensively and defensive involvement getting the puck to the net. Like, that's been a huge change in the NHL, and that's why there's a lot more scoring now, I think. A big reason why, at least. Any thoughts on Oliver Bonk's first AHL season? Nope, I haven't seen him once. Wondering if the Flyers trade Ristolainen and he gets to play the rest of the season. I don't know. Maybe. He's a first-round pick, so they're going to play him at some point, I would think, and see what he can do. I was never a huge Bonk guy, but I'll take a look. Maybe he could be a video room guy. Maybe we'll see if I have time. You're going on CNN with takes like that. I'd be curious what take I'm going to CNN with. As a local politician, I think everybody should be having more intense local political discussions. Well, yeah. I mean, I think a thing that people need to really think about more is their local politics, and I don't mean that like, oh, you have to know how city council works, but I do think you need to know who your city councilor is and who you're voting for when you go vote for mayor, and because that matters significantly more than what happens on a federal basis or in Canada, a provincial basis or something like that. In terms of the impact on your life, that is a significantly larger impact, right? At least it is in Ontario. Your schools are funded by school boards, and the provincial government certainly helps out, but in terms of what happens, they're school board directed, right? And you vote for your school boards. And where I live in Ontario, like, I get a brochure every year from the government that says you pay $1 in taxes and your money goes, X goes to this and this and this and this and this. And I at least get to have that information. And I go, okay, like, I think that makes sense, or I don't think that makes sense. And I know that if I vote differently or look for my city councilor or try to get in touch with them, it'll have a much more direct impact. So I think a lot of people think a lot about the big picture stuff, which is fair. I get it. But in terms of like improving your daily life day to day, that stuff matters a lot more. That matters way more. So I think on that line, yeah, I think people should care more about that kind of thing and think more and talk more about that kind of thing in a more serious way. But I think though, like, I don't know. It's just a very complicated thing nowadays because people can be so vociferous about what they believe and principled, and it's sometimes hard to have a conversation with people sometimes, especially if you're doing it online, which I don't know why you would. Yeah, the shot attempts in that Canada gold medal game were 62-36, something like that. You're right. I mean, it was an incredible result for the States. Wonder how many players or agents are terrified of being Kaepernicked. Well, I don't think they'll get Kaepernicked for obvious reasons. And look, like, guys skipped it. Some of the guys skipped it, and nobody is, like, the Dallas Stars haven't released Jake Ottinger from his contract, right? The Dallas Stars haven't outwardly come out and got him to, like, he has given a pretty tepid explanation as to why, but if I were him, I'd probably do the same thing too. Like, it's pretty obvious why you would say no to going to the White House. Like, you're only asking just to hear him say it, but you don't need to. It's pretty obvious why you would not go. So what difference does it make, right? You may as well be a little more just sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge about it and just move on with your life. But yeah, I don't believe they didn't speak out because they were worried about getting blacklisted, like a guy like Colin Kaepernick. I think that the circumstances are very, very different, and not saying that what happened to Colin Kaepernick is like justifiable. It isn't, but I don't think it's a 1-to-1 at all. And that a lot of that comes down to a certain type of privilege that a lot of those hockey players have that Colin Kaepernick did not, or the political discussion we were having at the time with Colin Kaepernick. I don't think that they have the same privilege as he and that community had during that time. Frank Saravelli went on Sportsnet and started. Oh God, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't know. Again, like, I saw what Saravelli put out there. You just aren't getting it. Like, it's kind of amazing that people just fundamentally are not listening to the criticisms people have. They're draping themselves in an American flag and going, "Why do you hate me so much? Why do you hate America?" And it's like, that's not what anybody is saying, right? Like, nobody's saying that. It's what it's the symbolism that you're integrating yourself with. It's the vibe that you're walking into a party that I think a lot of people should be very uncomfortable walking into, and you don't understand why people would not want to be at that party. I don't know how else to put it. It's pretty clear to a lot of people. And if you don't see it, then you don't see it. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, is a lot of these NHL, well, I mean, a lot of these NHL players that were at the Olympics are not young, right? Like, Jack Hughes was drafted in 2019. He's 24. And he's been around long enough, I think, to have a brain about this kind of thing. And again, like, if he or any of the other guys there politically disagree with me or whatever, and politically want to put themselves in a boat that they put themselves in, then in retrospect down the road, whether they like it or not, they're going to be examined. They're going to be examined in retrospect, and we will see what that looks like. Why is it so hard for a player to fix their skating style? How is it guys have been skating since they were 2 and their main issue is skating? That's a very good question. I think that a lot of it is a matter of, like, if you've been doing a thing since you were 2 and you are now 17 and you've done it for 15 years and you've done it in a way that you're comfortable, but the way that you're comfortable doing it, all of a sudden someone comes in and goes, like, in the NHL, it's not going to work. In the NHL, you're not going to be good enough, right? I think in junior hockey, again, I always go back to just how hard the NHL is, right? In the pyramid of hockey leagues, where at the bottom you've got House League and at the top you have the NHL, it's a very, very wide base and a very narrow tippy top, right? And so you can get away with less and less as you go up that pyramid, but more and more and more can get you, up. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's really tough to get to the tippy top, but even at the QMJHL level or the OHL level or whatever, like, you can find success if you are not the most efficient or fast skater out there. But to become NHL average, to be able to keep up with that level of play, for a lot of other guys, it might be a huge learning curve. Like this, and so from something you've been doing a certain way from 2 until 17, from 17 until what, 20, 21, I don't know if it's so much about like refining mechanics, but finding some way to be able to hang at that top level in some fashion. Whether you improve your skating or not, finding something that works up there, because again, the pyramid is still very, very steep, even if you're pretty high on the pyramid. So I think it's about how you frame it, right? Like, bad skaters, like there are guys in the NHL who are not Connor McDavid, you know. Not everybody in the NHL is blazing fast, or not every defenseman in the NHL is Quinn Hughes, right? So there's multiple ways to do it. But in my view, like a player who is struggling or behind the curve with regards to getting around the ice, one way or the other somehow, to me that really limits their projectability. That really, because it's like I look at that and I go, there's a really key area that needs a lot of improvement. So it's not necessarily, I don't think that like the effort of improving it is the hard part. It's the getting enough growth and development there to climb that pyramid to the top. You know what I mean? At least that's my interpretation of it. I'm not a skills coach, but I can see how that would be an issue. Yeah, I agree. Like with adults, like understanding policy, it's not easy. And like the thing that I always go to that has recently become more and more clear to me, at least politically speaking, is like things were and are the way that they are for a reason, right? Like you don't, like, politicians generally don't just wander in and say, how can I put too many regulations on a chemical factory? I want to, you know, regulate them to death. It's like, it's more that there are people that come in that go, we should, like, there's a problem and we should fix it, right? And if it gets in the way of a business, then that's unfortunate, but that's not on me to figure it out. My job is to keep the rivers clean. My job is to keep, you know, my constituents healthy. You know what I mean? And so over decades, you end up with situations that come around where legislators will go, that is a problem that it is politically expedient for me to deal with. You know, like the sentence that Richard Nixon created, the EPA, if you know anything about Richard Nixon, should make your head spin. But at the same time, like, rivers in America were on fire. So like even Richard Nixon looked at that and went, we should probably do something about that. That is not a good thing, right? And now we've had this comfort, right? We've had this so many things we take for granted, and a fundamental misunderstanding of like how science works and like what science is, and where we live in a world where any shortcoming or any mistake made by scientists is looked at as a systematic failure, but failure by people who aren't scientists is ignored, right? And then when you, part of the thing, again, I don't want to get political, but it will be very interesting to see the knock-on effects of all of what is going on, right? It's all fun and games until kids start getting measles again. It's all fun and games until you start getting, you know, problems. Like I am old enough where when I grew up, we had, I guess you could call it a nanny who would, you know, before my sister and I could go to school and both my parents worked, she took care of us. And she was married. She was an immigrant from the Philippines, and her husband had polio. Like I can see him in my head, and I can see the experience of a person with polio, right? And I know what that is like. And it is not, I mean, he was living a normal life, right? Like it wasn't like, you know, iron lung type thing, right? It wasn't like that. It was different, but that's kind of how polio works. But he was a functionally disabled person. And like seeing his lived experience, I go, I don't know why you would put yourself at risk of being in that scenario unless you didn't have to. if you didn't have to, right? Like, he obviously growing up in the Philippines, probably in the 40s or 50s, had an environment where polio vaccines were probably not very accessible. So he couldn't do anything about it. Whereas now you have a world where people are willingly putting themselves at risk of all of these things that are put in place for a reason, right? You know, and I'm not saying that every regulation is a good thing, but it is a very intriguing experiment in a really morbid way that, I mean, at some point you're going to realize why these things existed in the first place, why the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau existed. You're going to find out what removing regulations does to things. Like, things happen for a reason, right? And when there are problems, good politicians want to fix those problems, ideally. And it's in their vested interest to win elections. And if it means fixing problems to win elections, that means legislation. So you get regulation. Do you have to understand the nitty-gritty about all of it? No, I don't think so. But, you know, I think that's also the problem, is people think they know a lot more than they do. And they don't. I'm a hockey guy, and I'm even sitting here going, there are probably things that I think I know and I don't. You know, I think any person out there should have that kind of frame of mind about anything they're studying, right? It's like, maybe I am missing something. Maybe there's something about this that I'm missing. You know, maybe I should leave it up to real experts because they know more than me. You know, like, this anti-expertise thing we're in is very bizarre to me, but it's the way she goes. Yeah, Finland was missing Barkov. That's true. And yes, Lane Hudson does have a certain skating style that, yeah, the deception in Hudson's game is really, really good. Thoughts on Schmitz? We did that off the top of the show, but I get it. It's to play more games, play down the stretch, and you know, I think with Schmitz, he wants to play more games. He wants to play playoff games. You want to just get games played under your belt, because with Ukraine, it just was not going to happen. That team might get relegated, and he's given them a lot. And going to Munich, they're a better team. He'll probably play quite a bit and get playoff games and just get more hockey under his belt. Check out our game tape on him. Oh, AJ's here, our moderator. Did I ban anybody? No, not yet. We've actually been talking a lot of politics today because of the US thing, and I haven't had to ban anybody, so that's great. And yes, plug the game tape. Mikey Burchild. Yeah, we got Mikey Burchild going up for subscribers to Scouching.ca tonight, so it's a good time. Favorite James Bond pre-1992? Oh my God, yes. Thank you. A light topic of conversation. Favorite pre-1992 James Bond movie? I think I might get people upset about this, but I'm gonna go Moonraker. I think Moonraker might be my favorite. Either Moonraker or The Man with the Golden Gun. They're both kind of like polar opposites, right? With Moonraker, it's James Bond in space, which is it's also such a great, like, late space age time capsule, right? And I love it. I love that. But it's so corny and weird and crazy that I love it. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got The Man with the Golden Gun, which is James Bond in Thailand or Vietnam, I think, whatever, Thailand, in Southeast Asia. And it's so different. It's like James Bond does karate, like James Bond does whatever, does martial arts. And it's so funny to me. Like, it's so good. I don't know what it is. And also the villain in The Man with the Golden Gun, Scaramanga and Knick Knack. Those guys, I mean, they're from Fantasy Island, but those guys are awesome. Awesome villains in that. Same thing with Moonraker. The guy, the evil guy, the space guy, he's really, really good too. It's silly. I love the silly James Bond movies. Those are, like, I'm a bit of a James Bond head because of how silly a lot of them are. I don't really like the Sean Connery ones, honestly. They're not my jam, but like the Roger Moore ones are ridiculous, and I love that. And the Pierce Brosnan ones I really enjoy too. Like GoldenEye, I've seen GoldenEye maybe 40 times. I think it's an awesome, awesome action movie. Like if you just want a good movie to sit back and watch, it is one of the most easily digestible films out there. I love that movie. And everyone in it is so good. And the Daniel Craig ones are good too, but the silliness of James Bond is where I really hit the sweet spot. Like one of my favorite scenes in any James Bond movie ever, and this is not answering your question, but in GoldenEye, when James Bond is meeting Q, the quartermaster, and going through all of the fun little gizmos and gadgets that he's got, the exploding pen and all that stuff. And at the end of it, James Bond, there's the guy with the airbag, and he gets all smushed up against the glass, and then James Bond just grabs out of nowhere for no reason a full foot long sub, and he's like examining it, and for some reason that scene kills me. Like it's like something out of Rick and Morty, but in 1995 or whatever it was, and it's hilarious. It's great. And yeah, if you haven't seen that one or Moonraker or Man with the Golden Gun, those ones are S tier films. I love those movies. They're fun. Favorite healthy dessert? I mean, I don't know if it's a dessert, but like I'm big on yogurt with granola and fresh fruit. And if you really want to sweeten it up, you put some honey in there. Or maybe some like a jam of some kind, some preserve. I guess it's not really like a dessert, but are meringues considered a dessert? Because like you can make some really good meringues, and meringues are mostly air, sugar and air, but still air. Healthy desserts. Yeah, I don't know. My dad made, again, he was on a Sicilian kick last night. He made something last night. I forget what it was, but it was like a gelée. Like it was like a gelée, but he said it was made like with very few ingredients. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, I don't know. Top 10 prospects you watched every month content idea. That is a good idea. I like that idea. I looked at the TOI of the gold medal women's hockey team or women's hockey game. Renata Fast was on the ice for 31 minutes. That's crazy. I mean, that makes sense. She's really good. Renata Fast was really good. Really, really good. Yeah, but yeah, man, that's a lot. But man, you got to feel for that Canadian women's team, man. That was a heartbreaker, I don't think I didn't have the faith going in, but they did just about everything you could have hoped for, man, and it just didn't go their way. And the U.S. women's hockey program has been firing on all cylinders for a really long time. If you want to talk eye-opener, that Olympics should have been an eye-opener for Canada to be like, oh, okay, the women's thing we need to work on more. Like, it's just fundamentally true. Like, the average age on the U.S. team was the same as Sarah Fillier's age. Like Sarah Fillier's that the hot new product for Canadian women's hockey, right? But she's in her mid-20s and like in her prime and the same age as the average American player on that team. I think the U.S. had 6 players under 23 on it or something like that, and the Canadians had 1 under 24 or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head, but the Canadian age was 5 years older than the next oldest team in the tournament, and I don't think were particularly on the same level as previous iterations of the women's team. So I think there has to be some thought lent to that. And like the U.S. had a bunch of women come out of college hockey to play on the women's team. Canada has some players that are among the top scorers in the NCAA too. None of them were on the team. They were all PWHL players. And so that might be, if you want to talk about countries that have lessons after the Olympics, you might want to look at Canada. Hopefully, maybe. OEL should have been the MVP of the Olympics. It's true. Yeah. People are surprised at me all the time when I don't make fun of them or argue with them when they open up politically. Well, yeah, I mean, like, nor should you. I don't think, unless they're like, hey, I'm not going to use terminology that's going to get me demonetized, but like, hey, it's like I'm a insert word that starts with a N. Then I would be like, I don't think that's maybe I should, ridicule that person for that belief or try to save their life from themselves. But by and large, I mean, like, I think, like, at least in my opinion, the whole world is based around trade-offs, right? You by and large, decisions are not zero-sum positives or zero-sum negatives. It's always knock-on effects that will happen because of a change that you can try to get ahead of as best you can, but you can't plan for 100%. And so if you're more of a conservative-leaning person, I understand a lot of the viewpoints. I get it. I'm not there in a lot of it, especially socially, but I think if you're a person who's like, I don't like income taxes, I think we shouldn't pay income taxes, I could be like, okay, I'm not saying that's not a valid point of view, right? I get that. I don't agree, but could you live in a world where there's no income tax? I mean, on paper, yeah, but there would be trade-offs from that. There would be big issues that, for me, I would have to, you go from the line of questioning there, right? Like, it's not about going like, you're an idiot because taxes should be super high. It's like, that's not the line of thought I would go, but it's more like, well, okay, like, what do you mean? How would the world work then? And you have to think through the trade-offs of that. And on all sides of the political spectrum, you got to think about the trade-offs, right? We should have a cooking challenge, AJ and I. I would win. AJ doesn't cook. He lives with his mommy. Everyone knows the devil they're dancing to when it comes to politics, and we are talking New Jersey. Yeah, it's true. How confident are you in who goes first overall? Does it seem like a crapshoot? I'm not confident at all. Like, zero. I have no idea. No idea. Where does the bar fight rank in the 13 reasons for McKenna going number 1? 6. What else do we got here? Because I got to get out of here right at 4. Imagine telling Lane Hudson to bulk up. He should bulk up. Slow down, son. You're too fast. Speed. Yeah, speed. The NHL, a lot of it is speed. Yeah, exactly. Thoughts on the hit 2002 movie Scooby-Doo? Finally, someone asks me about the 2002 hit film Scooby-Doo featuring Sarah Michelle Gellar and what's her name from Freaks and Geeks and Freddie Prinze Jr. and oh my God, what's that guy's name? Willard? No, Matthew Dillard as Shaggy or as Raggy. Honestly, I saw that movie when I was a kid. I was 12, maybe 11. And I wasn't a big Scooby-Doo kid. Like, I wasn't, like, when it came to cartoons growing up, I was more of the Looney Tunes type. I was a Looney Tunes type, or a, like, I used to watch, like, the Transformers cartoons and computer animated shows. Shout out Canadians if you know Reboot. I watched a lot of Reboot. So I wasn't. And then when Pokemon came, I fell deep down the Pokemon hole. So Scooby-Doo, I think I missed it. I even watched a little bit of the Jetsons. But I never really was a big Scooby-Doo person. So that movie coming out, I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. Cool. You made a live action Scooby-Doo movie. But, so I remember that movie a little bit and thinking it was fine. But, yeah. It's an important question that has to be asked, though. A very important question. It's vital. For Your Eyes Only is a good movie, I would say, for the James Bond franchise. It's pretty good. Mission Impossible fan? Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, with Mission Impossible, again, it's similar to James Bond. Like, I appreciate movies that are just kind of fun. And I will say, the last two Mission Impossible movies, the story sucks. Like, it's really stupid. The AI thing taking over the world is really, really, really stupid, and I hate it a lot. I think they told the story and closed it just about as good as they could, but it was a stupid thing from the get-go. Really dumb, I think. But the previous ones, like Mission Impossible 3, was it 3, the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman, is legitimately a great movie. Mostly because Philip Seymour Hoffman is in it. And there's very few movies Philip Seymour Hoffman, God rest his soul, has been in that are not extremely good. Mission Impossible 2, I remember kind of being whatever. But is it the fourth one? The one where they're in like Dubai, Ghost Protocol or something like that. Like those were the first one, the third one, the fourth, and the fifth, I think. Those are all excellent. The last two, I could maybe try something else. But I will say, though, it's still worth seeing simply because Tom Cruise is insane. Like, the things that he does and the way in which he does it, I just go, I just want to see that you do these things. I want to see that you do these things because it's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that I think that Canada women's team was a closing chapter of a generation of incredible players. Like so many of those women have had incredible careers, right? Like from Larocque all the way to even already Sarah Fillier. But like Poulin and Spooner and Nurse and like these are like iconic Canadian women's players that have completely changed the state of the game for women, like fundamentally on almost every level. Like there's no way around it. And that's great. It's awesome. It's gotten a lot of people into a totally new side of the sport that they didn't think about too much before. And also like companies in Canada at least have stepped up and made women's hockey players like a big forefront of their marketing and advertising campaigns. Like they're defaulting to women's hockey players, which adds a whole other level of legitimacy to their place in the world of sports. Like and honestly too, I got to give credit. Like I've been to PWHL games here in Toronto. The environment at those games is incredible. It is awesome. I love going to PWHL games. It is so much fun. And I can't put my finger on why, but it's so much fun, And so we're lucky to have that. And even though they didn't win, I think those women should be really, if they don't come back for the Olympics in 4 years, they should be thrilled. Like absolutely, like never, ever, ever feel a bad feeling about their career or performance or anything. Obviously there's things that you can poke at and be critical of and whatever, but they didn't pick the team, They didn't pick the team. They didn't choose to be the age that they are. There's not, that's not on them. And they didn't choose to have the US be an elite group and program. And the fact that they made that game as interesting as it was is a remarkable achievement, I think. And they did a great job. I don't know. It's a really great story that I think that the US national men's team has kind of taken away from it in Canada here. But you haven't heard much about it, about just how impactful a lot of those women have been for sports in Canada. Like I don't know if it's the same in the US with the team there, but it's palpable here. Like it's noticeable, at least for me, in my opinion. Meringue is more dessert. I know. The yogurt and granola is breakfast. I know. Yeah, I mean, Sweden will probably have some good young players to throw in there. I don't know. Yeah, Canada definitely had the mindset they would win or lose with players they trust. Yeah, it's 100% true. You go with what you know, and you live and die by that. And Canada did win a silver medal. They did, it wasn't a catastrophe. That was about as good as you probably could hope it goes without winning the gold medal. I love taxes. Give me more. I want to be taxed at 130%. I should owe the government more money than I make. That's what I think. AJ, okay, there's an idea. AJ can't bake, neither can I. I am so awful at baking, so AJ and I maybe we'll have a bake off at some point. We'll talk. The top 4 of the PWHL draft will be Americans. I don't know that for sure, but wouldn't surprise me. Also, like, by the way, before we go for today, like, legitimately speaking, Caroline Harvey might be one of my favorite athletes in the world. Like, I've been watching her since she was like 17 or 18, off and on. I think that if things go right, she could be like an enormous face of women's hockey if she wants to be. Like, I was in awe at that Olympic tournament watching her play for that US team. Like that US team was great, but a huge part of it was her. And I thought she was amazing. And I am like continuously impressed watching her play. Like, unreal. It's wild watching her play. And so just pointing that out before we go. I don't think the position of conservative versus liberal is ultimately social or financial positioning, but more about what you stand when it comes to changes in the system. That's true. I'm very much conservative in a particular sense. If I see a fence in the field, the first thing that comes to mind is not to tear it down, but try to understand why it's there. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I totally understand that, right? Like, yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. And I think that that's a healthy way to think about things, you know? But that's what I mean. Like, I think a lot of people don't think that way. I think a lot of people are going, why did you spend money on a fence? And instead of figuring it out, they'll go, I'm going to rip it down just because we spent money on it. And like, if that's the way you want to go, then fair enough. But one way or the other, you're going to find out why that fence was there. Dead Reckoning and Fallout. That's the one. Those two were amazing. Yeah, those great. Yeah. The last two I thought were really dumb. I thought they were really dumb. You had a crush on both ladies in the Moonraker movie at the same time. As a 7-year-old, it was a huge dilemma. Well, that was the one. That was the one with Holly Goodhead, right? Which is the most hilarious Bond girl name. It is so stupid, but it's so, like, the fact that they went with it. Obviously, you can look through the lens of how it might be a little misogynistic in retrospect, but it is so, to me at least, absurdly misogynistic that it like is off the scale stupid. And in 2026, it is hilarious. Like I don't know. There are so many things coming to mind that I want to say, but I'm not sure I can on the internet. But I mean, yeah, it was her, and was it the one with are you talking about the woman with the pigtails that didn't really say much and became the love interest of Jaws? Spoiler alert. Maybe. But I might be. I haven't seen that movie in a long. You know what? I'm alone tonight. Maybe I'll throw Moonraker on. Maybe I'll go watch some Moonraker tonight because I haven't seen that in a long time, and I love that movie, and I want to know what you're talking about. The reason I don't call myself a person of the purist right is because there are aspects of shifting winds I find less problematic than others. Yeah, I mean, fair. Like, that's the thing. Like, I remember, like, back in 2008-ish, 2012, and this is just me speaking, but I mean, I was a kid. Like, I was just a young adult, but I remember being like, this Obama guy seems really cool, but, like, this McCain guy seems also really cool. Like, he's a war hero, and he stood up for his opponent on a number of occasions, and you know, like, it for me, I remember thinking, and I'm asking myself the question, because I've always been kind of into this side of the world, but I remember asking myself the question, like, who actually would I put my name beside? Who actually would I tick on the box going into this election? If I could vote, which I couldn't, you know, because I'm Canadian. But if I could, which way would I go? And I think there was a genuine nuanced discussion between those two, and Mitt Romney as well. And ever since, I don't think that the same conversation can be had. I don't know. The winds have shifted. Like, I don't know. I've said a few times on this show in Canada, or I've said this in the Discord server too, like, here in Canada, I am pretty sure I've voted for every different party in my life at some point. But mostly that's because when I vote, I usually look at the individual candidates that I'm voting for and what they're all about, and their history and what they stand for and what they do and all that stuff. And I'm interested in that kind of thing. And I think that matters way more than the party that's next to them, right? Like when you tick the box. So at the end of the day, you just go with what you believe in. And I definitely don't believe in what's going on right now down there. I'll tell you that. Harvey versus Murphy. I go Harvey. I mean, Murphy was great too, but Caroline Harvey, I anytime she's on the ice, and I'm glued to the TV screen. And maybe that's just me. Like, Abby Murphy's great too, but I have a deep appreciation for Caroline Harvey and the way she plays. I think she's amazing. Are you excited for Filtered and Leaf Green on Switch or not a Pokemon? I don't play a ton of the Pokemon games. I did on my Switch. I actually really liked Arceus Legends. I know a lot of people didn't, but I thought it was really cool. It was like 90% of the way to something really, really, really interesting. But I like that one. But otherwise, I don't play a ton of them. I haven't played a ton of them. But like when I was a kid, look out. Yeah. All right. Well, I think on that note, we're going to call it a day. That was really fun. Thanks very much for coming. Again, we're back on our normal schedule. You can like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want, you can join the membership program. Join Scouching.ca as a subscriber. You got all kinds of fun toys over there. You'll get early access to all of our video rooms, or vote for yourself or fail as a human being. Fair enough. We got a politician in the chat. That's an honest assessment. Definitely fair. But anyway, thanks very much for coming. We're going to be doing office hours in the Discord server tomorrow. We're going to have all the heavy hitters, all the big winners, top end of the board tomorrow. We're going to bang through a whole bunch. I'm ready to party. Yeah, go to, and if you want my live thoughts on Moonraker the movie, I'll probably be doing it in the Film and Television text channel in our Discord server. So if you're part of the server and you don't want to see that, I'm sorry in advance. It's going to be really annoying, but I'm psyched. So anyway, thanks very much. This was a lot of fun. We'll see you Monday night, 2 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, Mikey Burchild's going up for subscribers. Tomorrow there will be a video room coming out on Bill Zonon. We'll be recording more of those for next week over the weekend, probably tomorrow morning too. I don't know. We'll see. But in the meantime, stay safe, be well, stay calm, carry on, do your thing. Thanks very much. And we'll see you on Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay, bye.